Organized stalking. It's a term that might sound unfamiliar to many, but for those who have experienced it, the impact is all too real and devastating. It sounds like something from a thriller movie, a plot device used to keep audiences on the edge of their seats. But for a growing number of people, it's a terrifying reality that they live with every single day. The fear, the anxiety, the constant looking over their shoulder. This isn't about a single obsessive individual. It's far more insidious and organized. We're talking about groups, networks, working in concert to harass, intimidate, and silence their victims. These groups operate with a level of coordination that makes it difficult for victims to escape their grasp. The problem? This type of stalking is often hidden in plain sight. It happens in busy streets, crowded places where the perpetrators blend seamlessly into the background. It's difficult to define, challenging to prove, and even harder to prosecute. Law enforcement often struggles to understand the complexity and scale of these operations. Victims feel trapped, isolated, and disbelieved. They are often left to fend for themselves, with little support from authorities or their communities. Their lives are turned upside down, yet they struggle to get the help they desperately need. The emotional and psychological toll is immense, leaving lasting scars. This essay will explore the dark world of organized stalking, shedding light on the legal obstacles that prevent justice. We will uncover the layers of this hidden crime. We will delve into the experiences of victims, examine the shortcomings of current laws, and propose concrete steps towards a safer future. By understanding their stories, we can begin to address the gaps in our legal system. It's time to break the silence and expose this insidious crime. Only by bringing it to light can we hope to put an end to the suffering of countless individuals. Imagine being followed, your phone tapped, your online activity monitored, but when you try to explain, you sound paranoid. There's no single smoking gun, just a series of unsettling incidents. This is the insidious nature of organized stalking. Evidence is often circumstantial, open to interpretation. A flat tire here, a whispered threat there, a fake social media profile. Each event on its own seems minor, but together, they form a pattern of relentless harassment. Proving intent is another hurdle. How do you show that these incidents are coordinated, not random? The perpetrators are masters of disguise, using technology and anonymity to their advantage. Victims are left feeling gaslighted, questioning their own sanity. The burden of proof rests heavily on the victim, who is already traumatized and vulnerable. This is where the system often fails, leaving victims feeling helpless and alone. Victims of organized stalking often face an uphill battle when they seek help. Law enforcement, unfamiliar with the complexities of this crime, may dismiss their claims as paranoia or exaggeration. Without concrete evidence, cases are often dropped, leaving victims feeling betrayed by the very system meant to protect them. This lack of understanding can have devastating consequences. Victims may be labeled as difficult or delusional, further isolating them from potential support systems. The emotional toll is immense, leading to anxiety, depression, and even post-traumatic stress disorder. The legal system, designed to address individual crimes, often struggles to grasp the networked nature of organized stalking. This leaves a dangerous gap, allowing perpetrators to operate with impunity. It's time to bridge this gap by equipping law enforcement with the tools and training they need to effectively combat this evolving crime. The statistics on organized stalking are alarming, yet they only tell part of the story. These numbers, while shocking, fail to capture the full extent of the trauma and fear experienced by the victims. They are more than just data points. They represent real lives disrupted and, in many cases, destroyed by relentless harassment and intimidation. Behind these numbers are real people whose lives have been shattered by this terrifying crime. Each statistic is a person who has faced unimaginable stress and anxiety, often feeling isolated and helpless. The emotional and psychological toll is profound, leaving scars that can last a lifetime. Take the case of Sarah, a young professional who became the target of a stalking group after she exposed corruption within her company. Sarah was a dedicated employee, passionate about her work, and committed to doing the right thing. But her life took a dark turn when she decided to stand up against unethical practices. What began as threatening emails escalated to physical surveillance, break-ins, and even poisonings. The harassment was relentless, invading every aspect of her life. She lived in constant fear, never knowing when or where the next attack would come. Despite reporting the incidents to the police, Sarah struggled to get her case taken seriously. Law enforcement often dismissed her claims, viewing them as isolated incidents rather than part of a coordinated campaign of terror. This lack of support only added to her sense of vulnerability and despair. The perpetrators, hidden behind a web of anonymity, remained elusive. They used sophisticated methods to cover their tracks, making it nearly impossible for authorities to identify and apprehend them. This anonymity emboldened them, allowing the harassment to continue unchecked. Or consider John, an activist who found himself in the crosshairs of a hate group. John was outspoken and fearless, advocating for social justice and equality. His activism made him a target, and the hate group was determined to silence him. He endured online harassment, death threats, and vandalism of his property. The hate group used every tool at their disposal to intimidate him, from vicious online attacks to physical acts of violence. The constant barrage of threats left him in a state of perpetual anxiety. The constant fear and intimidation took a toll on his mental health and personal relationships. John found it increasingly difficult to trust others, and his once strong connections with family and friends began to fray. The psychological impact was devastating, affecting every aspect of his life. These stories are not isolated incidents. They are part of a larger, more disturbing pattern of organized stalking that affects countless individuals across the globe. Each victim's story adds to the growing evidence of a pervasive and insidious problem. They represent a growing trend that demands our attention. As more people come forward with their experiences, it becomes clear that this is not a series of random acts, but a coordinated effort to terrorize and control. It's time to move beyond statistics and listen to the voices of survivors. Their stories provide crucial insights into the nature of organized stalking and the profound impact it has on victims. By hearing their experiences, we can begin to understand the true scope of the problem. Their experiences highlight the urgent need for legal reform and societal awareness. We must advocate for stronger laws to protect victims and hold perpetrators accountable. Additionally, raising public awareness is essential to prevent future cases and support those who are currently suffering. The law's blind spot. Why current measures fall short. Existing laws often fail to adequately address the complexities of organized stalking. This issue is not just a minor oversight but a significant gap that leaves many victims without the protection they desperately need. Stalking statutes typically focus on the actions of a single individual, making it difficult to prosecute cases involving multiple perpetrators. This narrow focus means that when a group of people collaborates to harass or intimidate someone, the law often falls short in holding them accountable. Moreover, the definition of stalking itself can be narrow, failing to encompass the full range of tactics employed by organized groups. These tactics can include everything from persistent following to coordinated online harassment, none of which are adequately covered by current laws. Cyberstalking, for example, is often treated as a separate offense, even though it's frequently used in conjunction with offline harassment. This separation creates a fragmented legal approach that fails to address the holistic experience of the victim. The lack of a coordinated legal response further exacerbates the problem. When different jurisdictions and agencies don't work together, it creates gaps that organized stalkers can exploit. Law enforcement agencies may lack the resources or expertise to investigate these complex cases, while prosecutors may hesitate to pursue charges due to the difficulty of securing convictions. This lack of action not only emboldens the perpetrators, but also leaves victims feeling helpless and abandoned by the system. This legal vacuum allows organized stalking to flourish. Without stringent laws and coordinated efforts, these groups operate with impunity, knowing that the chances of facing legal consequences are slim. It's time to close these loopholes and create a legal framework that reflects the realities of this evolving crime. Only through comprehensive legal reform can we hope to offer real protection to victims and hold perpetrators accountable for their actions. Breaking the silence. Giving victims a voice. The first step towards change is acknowledging the problem. We need to break the silence surrounding organized stalking and encourage victims to come forward without fear of judgment or disbelief. Creating safe spaces for victims to share their stories is crucial. Support groups, online forums, and dedicated hotlines can provide a lifeline for those who feel isolated and alone. Public awareness campaigns can help educate the community about the signs of organized stalking and the devastating impact it has on victims. By increasing understanding, we can foster empathy and encourage bystander intervention. Breaking the taboo surrounding this crime is essential. Only by shining a light on this dark corner can we hope to bring perpetrators to justice. A call for action, demanding change from the ground up. Addressing the issue of organized stalking requires a multi-pronged approach. We need to push for legislative reform, empower law enforcement, and educate the public. Contact your elected officials and urge them to support legislation that specifically addresses organized stalking. Demand stricter penalties for perpetrators and greater legal protections for victims. Support organizations working to combat stalking and provide resources to survivors. Volunteer your time, donate to their cause, or help raise awareness through social media and community events. Change starts with each of us. By raising our voices collectively, we can create a safer world for everyone. Bridging the gap, empowering law enforcement. law enforcement agencies play a critical role in responding to organized stalking. It is crucial to equip them with the training and resources they need to effectively investigate and prosecute these cases. Specialized units dedicated to stalking and harassment crimes can provide expert knowledge and support. These units should include investigators trained in cyberstalking techniques, forensic analysis of digital evidence, and the psychology of stalking. Collaboration between law enforcement agencies is also essential. Organized stalking groups often operate across jurisdictional boundaries, requiring coordinated efforts to track their activities and apprehend those responsible. By investing in law enforcement training and resources, we can help ensure that victims of organized stalking receive the protection they deserve. Hope on the horizon, a future free from fear. The fight against organized stalking is far from over, but by raising awareness, demanding legal reform, and supporting victims, we can create a future where everyone feels safe and protected. Imagine a world where victims are believed and supported, where law enforcement has the tools to bring perpetrators to justice, and where organized stalking is no longer a silent epidemic. This is the future we must strive for. It's time to stand together and say no more to this insidious crime. Let's work together to create a world free from fear, where everyone can live without the threat of being stalked and harassed.